I'm the owner of Lexicon Legal Content. We work with law firms and digital marketing agencies throughout North America, creating SEO and AI visibility focused content for law firms. So during bar study after law school, I started writing content for a small agency that no longer exists. And I realized I was pretty good at it. A couple of the pieces that I had written started ranking really, really well right away. It occurred to me that there was a huge market for this thing. In content marketing, it was just in its infancy at the time.
Want to attract and convert more leads? Want to learn how digital PR, branding, and SEO can establish and build your brand identity? Welcome to the Market Movers Building Brands and Links with Linkify podcast. We answer these questions and help you ramp up your brand visibility and credibility. Let's cut through the noise and make your business the talk of the town. We're your hosts, Nick and Chris. Let's get this show on the road.
Welcome to the Market Movers podcast. Today we are joined by David Arato, founder of Lexicon Legal Content, to unpack how legal brands can actually get cited inside AI search, why authority beats volume, and the exact systems that make content visibility repeatable. Welcome to the show, David.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris.
David, thanks so much for coming on. To start, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. Well, I'm the owner of Lexicon Legal Content, as we went over. We work with law firms and digital marketing agencies throughout North America, creating SEO and AI visibility focused content for law firms.
Awesome. So just before we came on, I wanted to know the story. I asked, did you go to law school? You said, yeah. You pivoted. Could you dive into that?
Oh, absolutely. So during bar study after law school, I started writing content for a small agency that no longer exists in the St. Louis area where I grew up and went to law school. And I realized I was pretty good at it. And a couple of the pieces that I had written started ranking really, really well right away. And it occurred to me that there was a huge market for this thing. And no one at the time, and this is back in 2009, so this is ages ago. And content marketing, I think, was just in its infancy at the time. No one had consolidated a specialized shop to provide agencies and law firms with high quality, JD vetted, accurate, compliant content. So I saw a market opportunity and I took it.
Oh, that's awesome. What is it about? I feel like there's a lot of lawyers who end up in marketing and SEO. We have John Dykstra and I think Kyle Roof as well. It's like a lot of big name people in this space. Why do you think that is? Any idea why so many lawyers or people in law school end up drawn to marketing?
Yeah.
It's just coincidence.
So I think that the practice of law can be tedious for some people. You've got to be built for it, right? And this is one thing that I realized, and let me be clear, I never practiced, so I'm speaking theoretically and not from experience. I do know that the practice of law in many areas tends to be very adversarial. Your communication with opposing counsel is adversarial. Your communication with judges can be adversarial. Because you have opposing interests. They are directly opposed. What you're trying to achieve is the opposite of what opposing counsel is trying to achieve. And I think that wears on you professionally after years or decades of practice. And the great thing about marketing is that you and your clients have a common goal. You're working together to achieve a goal together that you have the same goal to achieve. So it's not an adversarial profession. I actually see it sometimes in my communications with clients that they take an adversarial tone with us just as a default, and I almost have to like tamp it down and be like, hey guys, we're working together, we're trying to get you cases, right?
Yeah. That's interesting. So back in 2009 then, when you started doing this, where was the gap in terms of you obviously, as you know, some form of legal mind, a methodical person, you're able to sit down and craft this well-structured, compliant piece of content. Was that just missing from the market at that time? Is that where the gap was that you sought to fill?
I think what was missing was a subject matter expert marketing, content marketing companies. It was easy to go on whatever it was at the time, I guess Craigslist it would have been, and find a freelance writer who could string together sentences and do well. But the thing is about, especially in legal, which is a highly regulated profession, you can't say certain things. For example, in most jurisdictions, you can't call yourself an expert or specialist unless you have a secondary bar certification as such. And the thing is, a generalist copywriter, even back then, you don't know what you don't know. And also they didn't know how, like you wouldn't know without legal training how to ensure that a law or a precedent was current. You wouldn't know the intricacies of the advertising rules that apply to attorneys. So there was a lack of specialist copywriters in the space at the time. And this was when, I mean, we're going back 17 years now when I started doing this. This is crazy to say, but we're going back to when keyword stuffing worked, right? Like you could put in text at the bottom of the page in the same color as the background, and Google would index it and consider it relevant to a query. Or we were doing 500-word pieces of content, dropping the keyword in twice, and the thing would rank in 2 days. That landscape has significantly changed, and I've seen many content marketing trends come and go.
Those were the glory days. I
Glory
remember
days. Glory
ranking
days.
some stuff. Yeah, it was super easy back then. So I think we all know like the basics of putting together a content plan. Why it is complex, you know, the whole process. Like I think we all understand what goes on in that. So I'm curious now, like what is the main interest when you bring on a new client? We're talking about, okay, we're going to put together a content plan. Are you hearing them say like, are they talking about ChatGPT? Is AI the focus? How are people really thinking about the content strategy now?
I think the marketers are more into AI visibility than the clients right now. Because I haven't seen the most recent statistics, but I still think that LLM traffic accounts for not a ton of referral traffic right now. I mean, I think I saw something like 3 or 4%, but this was 6 months ago, and the space is moving so fast, it might be 50%. I don't know. I don't want to say something that's wrong. That being said, I think our industry is working through the alphabet soup of what we're going to call this thing. Is it AIO? Is it GEO? Is it AEO? What AI SEO, right? I think clients are still thinking about SEO, and then as an add-on, they think, shit, I got to get myself into ChatGPT or Claude. And I still think it's secondary to visibility in Google, but I think also that's likely changing quickly.
Is obviously a law firm that hires a legal content marketing agency, they do it for one reason and one reason only, and that's so that the phone rings. So where we are now with AI search, are law firms seeing a steady rate of like organic calls driven from organic search? Are they even tracking a differentiation between where it's coming from? Well, what does that look like?
I think it's extraordinarily difficult right now with the tools we have to accurately engage in attribution for AI search. Anecdotally, clients say, "Hey, our client told us they found us on ChatGPT." But I mean, I'm using SEMrush right now, and I'm playing with Uber Suggests tool, and I'm not sure how accurate they are. Yeah. So we're still in like the Google Console and GA4 days of right, and like I don't think that the problem is the path has become more circuitous, I think, for the consumer, and I think like a lot of what you're seeing is a lot of informational searches are starting on an LLM, and then they might go to Google to verify the existence of a law firm, because we all know, it's common knowledge that LLMs hallucinate. And then so the initial awareness phase occurred on ChatGPT, and then the consumer went to Google to verify the law firm and go to the website, and then they pick up the phone. So where's the attribution there, right?
I think law is a really I think AI search will be huge in this space because I mean, even if like it's lagging right now, I think it's moving to the direction where most people start to do research with AI chatbots, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. I do almost everything I do on chatbots. Then I go to Google if I need to find something very specific. And I think that will be the case down the road if it's not already. And I think this is a perfect spot where if you're actually like you have whatever issue you're going through, a divorce, you've been in an accident, whatever kind of thing, you're going to start out, you're going to do the research, and then you're going to end up at these are the firms that specialize at this in your area. So I think it's going to be huge for discovery. And then you do have the attribution part. Now, you mentioned before we jumped on that you guys were focusing on this heavily. And I think that's what, if you're a law firm, that's what you need. Like you don't have time to go figure that out. You need to make sure the agencies you're working with understand this and they're staying at the front of it. So how are you guys thinking about this? How are you kind of adapting this into your strategy?
So we're using our own brand and our own blog content and our page content as test cases to see what's working. Because obviously there is no playbook. We're creating the playbook as we go as marketers, right? What we've seen work is, I'm going to call it SEO 2.0 because the fundamental principles have not changed, but the focus has changed, right? Like the weighting of the factors has changed, I believe. So clear content that does not bury the lead and answers the question. number one, right? That is getting us cited in LLMs. Two, structuring content in a Q&A conversational format. I view it this way, like you have to understand the incentive of whether it's Google AI overviews, or the LLMs. What's their incentive? To provide a clear answer to their user. So on our end as content creators, we need to make it as easy as possible for the whatever platform it is to extract the answer it's looking for from our content.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I think that we've been leaning heavily into, and used to be a nice to have, but now I would call it table stakes, is schema markup in the
Mm-hmm.
content. I've personally, on our blog, published a piece of content on, it's kind of meta level, AIO for lawyers that wasn't ranking at all, waited a week, added schema to it. The next day, or that evening, actually, in this case, like 6-7 hours later, I check our rankings and we're appearing both in the search results and in the organic results as number one. I'm sorry, not the search results, the AI overviews.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So if you Google AI overviews for lawyers, we appear number one organic and at the top of the search results. I'm sorry, I keep saying it, the AI overviews. Interestingly enough, I just read yesterday in Search Engine Journal, Google's working to increase link visibility in the AI overviews, which I think is huge and
Mm-hmm.
may also tie into attribution. Now, if you hover over the link, you see the source and the page and can navigate directly to it, which is a big change. Before, it was just answering the question and showing the source.
Yeah, and I think that the progression on that attribution ability will increase definitely. I think Google, Bing Webmaster Tools has already implemented some AI visibility functionality into its platform. Although, albeit, I think it's like aggregated in a way which is difficult to understand. But at least they've made that first move. I think Google will eventually do it as well. One thing which I find particularly interesting, and I'm wondering if you're incorporating this into strategy, is I read recently that the backlinks were still by far in and away the single greatest invention when it comes to the ability to trust information. And that's why the LLMs are so heavily focused on search engine results in order to deliver the results that they do. And you'll see this if you go into any AI LLM result, you'll see that it's so closely mirrored to the top results in the SERPs. So does this open up a wave of possibility for content types, considering that the possibilities of what people are potentially searching for inside of ChatGPT is so endless? Does that open up a whole new swathe of content possibilities?
I absolutely think so. Anecdotally, so when I first played with ChatGPT back in around the holidays in 2022, I looked at my wife and I told her, I was like, I'm going to have to go take the Colorado bar because we're going to be out of business in 6 months. I was really worried about it. And I thought this would all be automated. And I'm going to be honest, it's been a very disruptive time in terms of how we price our services, in terms of what the job actually entails. And, some clients want AI, some clients want human written. Long story short, I think that the tsunami of AI-generated slop, as I think we've all decided to call it, is absolutely creating more opportunity for content, various content formats and various placement, and good content and content placement in third-party sites. I think I'm answering the question. Let me know if I'm not. Yep.
Yeah, but also in terms of the actual, call it keywords or target topics. I think I read from Lily Ray recently on a tweet that she said Google announced in the last couple of days that the amount of searches that it's unable to accurately deliver results to in its AI answers, about 20% is stuff that they've never seen before. So they can't deliver a results page or a citation results within its AI that it can trust. So it's just opened up the possibility for so many first movers to produce content for those unthought of potential things that people are typing in and having chats about.
Which I think that's because of the way people search. Like with Google, you had you wrote to it a certain way.
You did, yeah.
And now you're more conversational. And so you're asking things you'd never type into Google just because it didn't really make sense.
Yeah.
I think, Nick, you've got a really good point. I was actually just thinking about this the other day that I remember thinking, I'm good at Googling. You know what I mean?
It's a skill. Yeah.
It was a skill. I think
That's
just a
interesting.
few years ago. Like if you want to find something, put in a keyword and then let it know what your intent is, what is or how to buy or whatever, right? You could be good. Like Googling was a skill to get the results you wanted. And Nick, to your point, you're absolutely right. Now you just ask it the question, right? Like I asked you questions about Olympic curling last night. Like I would ask a human being and I received the result. I think this speaks to, and I'm going to circle back in the conversation a little bit to the customer journey. I think we're going to see more informational searches occurring. I know for me, anecdotally, informational searches either happen in the AI overviews panel or on Claude, my favorite LLM. I don't really use ChatGPT. I don't know why. But when I have commercial intent, I go to Google, right? Like I
Yeah.
recently bought a pair of shoes. I started on Claude, evaluating some brands. And then when I made the purchase decision, I went to Google. And I think that that's reflective of a lot of people. And I think, Nick, you kind of spoke to this earlier, that you have a similar journey. Information happens the informational search happens on an LLM, and the final step occurs on Google.
Yeah, 100%. I do like that you said Googling was a skill. My daughter, who's 5, yesterday was asking me what skills I had. And I was like, I was trying to think of skills.
Googling.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to her today and be like, Googling. But yeah, I think that's exactly right. And it's like, I think you mentioned asking about curling. Like, when you're doing something, if you're going to look it up in Google, you have to really be interested because you're going to have to sift through all that data. Whereas you can ask something very specific, you get the very specific part. And I think that really changes not just how like people will discover companies, but how like you'll write about that content. It does make sense to write about things cover more in depth, because you don't have to have like an article that just makes sense. You can cover things in different formats as well. And I think that's going to change the way you kind of think about that. You're not looking at like, is this one keyword? And now I need to format that so that it works for Google. This is how Google is going to process it. This is what I'm trying to rank for.
Yep.
How does that, is that changing your strategy at all? Just thinking about being more comprehensive, trying to cover everything you possibly can?
I think I'm going to respond to your question as we're more conversational. That we are trying to, first of all, we're creating more content that addresses more issues, because as a conversation progresses, I think naturally, especially in the legal space, like let's use a divorce case, for example. A person starts the conversation with, can I keep my house in a divorce in Colorado? So then we're gonna create content for the LLM to pull from about division of property law in Colorado, right? And we're gonna show the signals of expertise, authority, and trust and experience. I missed one of the E's of EAT. But then that conversation likely won't end. It might go into child custody. It might go into other issues related to divorce. How are the assets split up? So we're creating, rather than targeting the keyword divorce attorney Denver, we are creating more comprehensive content that anticipates and answers like the kind of the kind of conversation a client would have in an attorney's office over the course of an hour. We need to create content that reflects that conversation rather than the surface level, I need a divorce lawyer in Denver. I'm searching that term. I'm clicking on the website, and then I'm picking up the phone and then having the conversation.
And I think this is actually a big improvement, because I know when marketers started talking about structuring their content in certain ways for AI, and there was a lot of people going, oh my God, not like, don't tell me that. Like, first we're structuring it for crawlers, and now we're going to structure for AI bots. But I think this is actually a big improvement, because it is more conversational in the way you're creating the content. Instead of saying like, these are all the things Google wants to see on a page, you're saying like, if someone asks this question, what other topics would we talk about? Like in my opinion, it's an improvement in the content structure.
I totally agree. And frankly, it's been a boon for our business, because we're creating more content about more topics. Especially as, again, the barrier and the cost of creating bad content has gone to zero. Anyone can go to ChatGPT and say, give me 1,000 words on what to do after a car accident in Littleton, Colorado. And good luck getting that ranked. Right? Good luck getting that piece of content ranked. Like, it's been written 100,000 times, if not more, right? And Google has no incentive to index and serve that content. It has nothing to do with the conversation. So I do think that the bar for good content and what the consumer is receiving has definitely increased.
When it comes to content, we know that something that the LLMs favor massively is first-party data and studies. Is this something which you're experimenting with as part of a strategy, or you just kind of cover all the actual basics of content first before you start progressing towards that?
That's a really interesting question. And the short answer is yes. And the longer answer is that what we're seeing is extraordinarily attractive to the LLMs and Google's AI overviews is new data. Whether that means you do something as sophisticated as go out there and run a consumer poll and create new data, or what we've done is something as simple as this. We look at the accident statistics in 2024, and we look at the accident statistics in 2025. We do some basic math, and we say the accident rate increased or decreased by X percentage. That, to the LLMs or to Google, is new data that hasn't existed before, even though it was a simple calculation.
And
But if you publish that data, it's new. And I think in this era, again, so these LLMs are by design creating generic content that is based on existing content. That's not a bug, it's a feature. So you're adding nothing new to the conversation. There's no incentive for either the LLMs to serve it or Google to serve it to the user. But if you add that one little piece of information, accidents increased by X percentage from this year to this year, it signals new data. We should serve this to the consumer. We should index this. This is authoritative and trustworthy content.
This is the one divergence, well, not the one, but one important and significant divergence between producing content where you have two things that you want to achieve. You want to rank in Google and you want to rank in AI. We know in recent months that the Google is taking its eye off its own algorithm. It's reducing things like crawl rate. It's reduced the 2 megabytes on a HTML file that it will crawl, all of this stuff. And we know that it favors consensus. So if it will want to rank on its first page. Charles Float talks about this a lot. Consensus of information. So if you have listicles, if you have top, SaaS firms for email marketing, if you come up with something brand new, it isn't going to favor that because it goes against the consensus. Whereas we know the LLMs like freshness and data. So I wonder if that's something which is difficult, or maybe it's not as relevant in something like law.
I want to dig into this a little bit. Are you suggesting that what I'm saying about creating new data is actually not good for the LLMs?
No. LLMs love fresh data and fresh stuff. But Google, its algorithm has almost reverted back to just this state of consensus, where if you have a top 10 law firms in Texas and everybo's got the same top 10 firms on their page, and then you come up with a list of 10 completely different firms, it's not going to like that piece of content because it's going against the consensus.
Because they think
you're manipulating.
Yeah.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way. But I interrupted your question.
My question was, is that something which is difficult to juggle those two things, where you want to produce a new piece of content, let's say for a law firm, are you having to take into account the top 10 results in Google in order to produce content that matches a consensus, but you also might want to inject fresh ideas, fresh studies for the LLMs? So is that something which you're considering, or just... This is
not an issue we've considered, but it's something I'm going to walk away from this podcast considering, for sure.
Okay.
And see how that works, right? So we've seen, there's been a lot of talk, at least in our industry of legal, which tends to be very conservative, of stake your claim and be a disruptor a little bit, right? Don't create, especially, again, in an age of AI slop, that anyone can publish any content at any time that's going to be smooth and generic and soulless, that the content that's going to get noticed is content that maybe takes an adversarial position, or a contrarian position, I should say. So that's what we've been kind of adjacent to what you're talking about. We've been really trying to create content that stands out, either with new data or with a contrarian position, or just something that might be controversial, a controversial position. So yeah, that's my short answer.
One of the things we've talked about a lot lately is that a lot of the things that move the needle with AI visibility are like classic marketing things. They're like building up your brand. It's not like this. We hear a lot of people talking about these very, I can't call them black hat because they're not against the rules, but these very temporary strategies to get AI visibility. But then the things that really, if you dig into who's showing up in my market and why, it's because they have a big brand. And so all the things you need to do to show up, they're classic marketing things. And so I think that is, for marketers, is a great sign, because these things, if if the discoverability shifts more towards AI, marketing just gets more important. It doesn't go away. We might have shifts. We might change the way we structure the content. A lot of these might actually be improvements, like you were saying with the content formats. But it just makes marketing more important. Do you feel that way as well?
Absolutely. I think that I'm going to look at it through the lens of third-party validation. So what we're seeing for myself, Lexicon, our brand, I'm publishing quite a bit in Attorney Law Magazine and Attorney at Work. I've got an article coming out in ABA. Every time we get that backlink, every time my face goes out on a podcast, it seems to improve our SEO generally. Like all the rankings go up. So that third-party validation and AI visibility goes up as well. So I think that third-party validation is huge. I'm also seeing, and I don't do this professionally, but I'm hearing about it in the conference circuit and from other people who are doing marketing in a broader sense than just content marketing like we do. We stay narrow strategically. Real world engagement seems to be driving a lot of LLM visibility and AI overview visibility. I'm talking about like getting a media mention from your local news station or doing some charitable giving in your community or just being involved in your bar association, right? Like these real world engagement, real world brand building that creates signals of trust and authenticity.
Yeah, that's actually, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
That's actually what we do, and we saw a nice uptick in that. So there was the whole SEO is dying, and this time for real. It's a narrative every year, but it got like it was the loudest and most convincing it's ever been, to the point where a lot of agencies were laying people off. That some agencies went under, and we do digital PR, so we were obviously keeping an eye on this. And for a minute, companies were starting to cut their marketing budgets. But then the narrative came out of brand building, which was the narrative before, but for AI. And so that's been one of the big things. People come to us and they're talking about like, oh, we're interested in PR. And it's not for SEO as much anymore. I mean, it's still common, but now a lot for AI. Like we want to get into these major media publications so that we'll increase our AI visibility.
Absolutely. I feel like, and I said it earlier in the conversation, the more we dig into this sea change of AI visibility and AIO, EIO, whatever you want to call it, the more it looks like SEO 2.0. It truly does. Like the principles haven't changed. In my field, in content marketing, the guidance still stands. Create really great content that answers a query that people want to read, and don't write for the bots. That was the guidance 5 years ago, and that's the guidance now. There's subtle differences as to like publishing frequency. You mentioned content freshness earlier. Like I think that's a huge factor. You'll see something rank right away, and then 2 weeks later it's on page 2. Make a change to it, update it with new statistics. It's back on top, etc. But fundamentally, create great content. That's still the thing.
I'm also seeing a lot of chatter lately that internal linking is just, again, this every few months, internal linking is one of these things. I think Matt Diggity did a post about this last month. He took 40 posts that had dropped to page 2. He did some internal linking and got like 75% of them back on page 1 within 48 hours.
Is that right?
It's something crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
You'd love to look at that. That's wild.
Yeah. It's definitely something which is underrated, overlooked, but it needs to be built into a system, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
As part of that ongoing content production plan. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know what I'm going to do after this podcast. I'm going to go interlink.
Internal linking.
Oh, it's the most boring thing in the world.
But guess what? An LLM can help you do it.
Yeah, that's true.
There you go. That's true.
Okay. David, as we get towards the end of this, it's been super interesting. What are you most excited about for the rest of this year and into the future?
I'm seeing search become hybrid. I think there's been a lot of binary talk of like search is going to occur on chatbots like ChatGPT. It's going to be LLM search, blah, blah, blah. Google's dead. SEO is dead. Nick, to your point earlier, like there's been a lot of that talk, and there's been a lot of talk that SEO is the same, as I've been kind of espousing this conversation. And I see a hybrid future, and I think we're already seeing it. I'm going to drop some industry specific statistics. 78% of legal searches in the United States trigger AI overviews. I was recently in France and I was testing some stuff, and I was like, where are the AI overviews? Apparently they don't appear in France. It's very strange. But long story short, I think the AI overviews appearing for 78% of legal searches, and those AI overviews often take up half the page,
Mm.
right? You've got to scroll down, not to get to PPC. You've got to scroll down to the bottom of the page to get to organic position number one.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what's PPC even worth at this point, right? And Google's also made it a seamless transition from engaging with the AI overview into entering into AI mode. But there are people who still want to look at the 10 blue links. And that's what Google's serving us. So like, thinking of this as search occurs conversationally on ChatGPT or search occurs traditionally in Google is the wrong way to think about it.
Mhm.
Google's already showing us this hybrid search of here's an AI-generated overview to your query. Scroll down if you want to do some shopping or engage further with the AI bot. And I'm really interested to see and excited to see how that paradigm affects how we create content. Because we still have to optimize for organic. But we also are optimizing now for conversational search. And that's going to be an interesting future.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It is going to be interesting. Yeah, I think you're right as well. I think Google is showing us potentially where it's gonna go. But it'll be interesting to see how the other chatbot and LLM models handle, like, still not making any money.
I mean, look at OpenAI, like just launching
yeah.
ads. I haven't seen one yet, but there's certainly been some backlash there.
Yeah, I'll probably stop using ChatGPT. Actually, maybe they won't have the ads
I
on
think
our
it won't be the
pro
paid
account.
plans. Yeah.
It won't be. It's just a
Yeah.
free.
I think it's just the free plans because most of their users are on the free plans, I believe.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, that's what's draining them, I think, isn't it? Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's come back in a year and have a chat and see what's going on.
Let's do it.
If we can have you, David. Okay. If people want to find you, if someone's looking for a good lawyer and they need to read some good content, where can they go?
LexiconLegalContent.com. And they can reach me directly at david@LexiconLegalContent.com. And I'm all over all the social media. It's not hard to find.
That's awesome. David, thank you for being such an awesome guest.
Hey, guys, it was great to do this. Thanks so much for having me.